If we cut 500 calories a day, we'll lose a pound in a week. Every doctor, nutritionist, and weight loss app tells us that a pound is 3,500 calories. But did you know that the Mayo Clinic admitted that this number falls apart as soon as we take metabolism, body composition, and how our brain actually responds to food into account? Let's take a look at why calorie counting doesn't work for weight loss and what you should be doing instead. Please subscribe. There was a paper published in 1958 where a researcher did some tests on body fat. What was found was that body fat was 87% fat tissue, which translates to about each pound being 3,500 calories. That one finding, a pound of fat burned in a calorimeter is 3,500 calories, has led to the foundation of the diet industry manipulation of our health. That's 70 years of suffering, stuck in obesity because of one data point. And what's worse, the researchers who actually study this stuff for a living have already moved on from that number. They've documented that it overestimates what's actually happening because it does not account for the fact that when our body, when we eat less, our body adjusts to compensate. And by the way, if we eat more, our body will just use more energy. Our body reacts to whatever we're doing. So let's talk about what happened to me and why their calorie math doesn't add up for humans. Throughout my life, I was aware of the 3,500 calorie number, and every time I wanted to lose weight, I would reduce my food intake by 500 calories per day. To do that, I'd use a food calculator. So I'd go online, you put my numbers in, and I would input my information to determine what my calorie budget was supposed to be. I went and looked back at my data just so we could have this information. So I'd be told that for maintenance, I should be at 2351 calories. But if I wanted to lose weight, I would have to drop it down to 1851 if I wanted to lose 1 pound a week. And then I would track everything that I was eating. So I put it in the calculator like I'm supposed to. And I also tracked my exercise because I knew that would give me a little buffer. Now, when I went back and I took a look at my old tracker, and while I was losing weight, what I noticed was that, first of all, I was very motivated. I was tracking everything. And I was also believing their lies. So I was below my budgeted calorie amount, anywhere from 100 to 500 calories. And what I'm actually telling you then is that means that over the course of the week, instead of being at 18 whatever every day, 1851, I was less than that, so that by the end of the week, I wouldn't have just been down 3,500. I was maybe down 4,000, 4,100. I was motivated. But Wellness Warrior, I was counting every activity I did as exercise. Walked to the store, I counted it. Did some carpentry, I counted it. Took my daughter rollerblading, I counted it. Interestingly enough, I was doing all of those exercises before I went on the diet. I was still overweight, right? Now, during the diet, I did lose weight. Every time I paid more attention to what I was eating and tried to stay within those calorie numbers, I lost weight. But I was so hungry. Inevitably, as soon as I reached my goal, I would eat more. And I would still try my best to avoid junk food, but I would eat more. So my calorie count, quote unquote, would of course start to go up. And as time progressed, my weight began to rise. Fast forward to today. I regularly eat 2,900 calories per day, right? My appetite over the years has risen, and as it does, I eat more. But the difference is today, I'm at the same healthy weight that I achieved 7 years ago, back when I changed my diet and understood the food piece of this puzzle that we're going to talk about today. So I doubled the calories, which according to the math says I should be gaining weight, but I'm not. Same body, So this is a beautiful N of one experiment, right? Same body. So what's going on? For some reason, when it comes to diet, we ignore how our body actually interacts with food. Our body was never counting calories because it has no way to count calories.
Our body has no calorie receptors, right? There's no cell receptor that says, oh, here's a calorie. This is what I'm going to do. Our body runs on hormones. Those are instructions as to what to do, how much to pump blood, how much body heat to generate. Everything in our body is run on hormones, not calories. So ignoring the hormonal side of things is not a great idea.
Our body has sensors that detect macronutrients, Wellness Warrior. So sensors for glucose, fat, and protein. Our body also has stretch receptors in the stomach to signal fullness. Orchestrating all of this, there are hormones telling our body what to do. What our body does is completely different from what the diet world wants us to believe. Because those hormones that run the show completely change the way weight loss happens in the body. Insulin, ghrelin, leptin, GLP-1 have nothing to do with calories, but everything to do with whether or not you and I can lose weight. Our body does not burn food. That doesn't happen. That's not a thing. It's a huge lie. Another frustrating thing that the diet industry tries to get us to believe, right? That we burn fat and we metabolize fat. But a calorie, a unit of measurement determined in a lab by burning food, is the data point that they want us to use to lose weight. So since our body uses hormones, not calories, we do not get the progress and keep it the way that they promise we're going to get the progress and keep it. Honestly, it's like if we are trying to get directions to a local mall. We're speaking English, but the person responding to us is speaking German. No map, just verbal directions. Do you think that you are going to make it to the mall? I want to take a moment and look at what I was doing years ago before I found keto. I actually tried to make calorie counting work, and I tried hard. I mean, I was invested in it. I had the app, I was doing the things, but it couldn't work because of some very simple facts that most of us aren't aware of. By law, a food label can be off by 20% and still be considered accurate enough. So, that 500 calorie deficit that we are tracking so carefully, I was tracking it, that meal could actually be 600 calories, right? Especially if, like I was doing, you're buying those pre-packaged because you know that that's the number of calories, and I was eating these things at work sometimes. Pre-packaged meals, they're allowed to put up to, if they say it was 500, 600 calories in there. The 9 calories per gram of fat and 4 calories per gram of carb and protein is an average, Wellness Warrior. That calorie number changes based on what the specific food is, how it was cooked, how the specific food was grown, how well we chewed it, and what was going on in our gut on any specific day that we ate. These are the numbers we're swearing by for weight loss. Numbers that vary that much moment to moment, day to day, body to body. Let's take this to the next level. Our body does not respond to protein, carbs, and fat the same way. Not even close. It's worlds apart. When we eat protein, it tells our body to stop eating when we've had enough. That's because protein consumption triggers the hormone CCK. And I'm saying CCK because they're saying that word, I always mess it up. Carbs, I'll put it on the screen. Carbs actually do the opposite. Carbs spike blood sugar and trigger insulin. And a few hours after eating them, you'll have a blood sugar crash, which makes you hungry again. Next thing you know, we're in the kitchen looking for a snack, right? But fats, they sit right in the middle between protein and carbs, right? They're steady, no dramatic swing in either direction. This means that if a meal is mostly carb and fat, but short on protein, sort of like this stuff, this is pasta, 22 grams of carbohydrates, 1 gram of fat, 4 grams of protein per serving. And there's supposed to be 4 servings in this little packet. I definitely would have eaten probably half, maybe even the whole thing. But regardless, that amount of protein, even if I ate the whole package, which should be 16 grams, is not enough for an adult. Not even barely enough it's not even enough for a child. The typical processed food is going to keep you eating, Wellness Warrior. There's nothing in there telling you to stop. And it's not just because we love what we're eating, although the thing might taste good. It's because our body isn't getting enough stop signal from CCK, that hormone, right? And as a matter of fact, your body is allowing you to keep eating because it's waiting for the protein to arrive. It is looking for an amount of protein and fat, by the way. It's looking for a certain amount of nutrients and building blocks to come in, and it's not getting it. It's looking for the protein that it sent you out for when it made you hungry, but you came back with carbohydrates. It's going to send you out again. Please don't get me the protein. And what are we going to do? We're going to get a snack because it's not time for the next meal yet. So it's probably going to be some kind of granola bar or fruit or what. And it's going to make you hungry again, right? So it's going to put that away, and it's going to send you out again. This is the cycle that we're on. I remember what it felt like constantly being hungry, looking for food every 3-ish hours. When I wasn't dieting, of course I'd get a snack. I wouldn't stop myself from getting a snack. But when I was dieting, I would try to make it, or I would have some fruit. And I honestly thought that fruit was the safer choice because it was low in calories and natural, and I hated fruit, and I only ate it when I was dieting. I truly thought it was better than having a granola bar. But I'd have those when I was dieting too. I'd have granola bars because I thought that they were better than chocolate bars. But the point is, I was constantly hungry, constantly looking for food. Well, at least I wasn't alone, right? Researchers did a review of 31 studies that tracked what happened to people long after they successfully lost weight. The average amount of weight that people were able to keep off several years later was about 2 pounds. But what's worse, somewhere between 1/3 and 2/3 of the people that they were looking at in the reviews consistently ended up heavier than the weight they started the diet at. If there was ever evidence that this is not a willpower problem, that's it. 31 different studies, all showing the same exact result. When we try to fight a hunger signal that cannot be turned off because our body is waiting for protein, eventually we give in. Every time I dieted, I added fruit to my meal plan. I had no idea that I was wasting my time with fruit. Honestly, I had no clue. My body was never asking for sugar or any of the toxins that came in fruit. Although you will constantly hear people talking about necessary carbohydrates, that's actually a lie. Our body has zero need for carbohydrates from our diet. That's because our body makes glucose on demand through gluconeogenesis. That's where it can transform protein and fat into carbohydrates. And it does this daily, whether we eat carbs or not. So what we actually need to eat is protein and fat. There are 9 essential amino acids our body cannot make, and some fatty acids that our body just cannot make. So when I force down the fruit, thinking that I'm helping myself, I really wasn't helping myself. But it was even worse than what I understood because I was flooding my body with sugar. Fruit is mostly fructose. When we eat it, our body sends it directly to our liver for processing and disposal. That's likely happening because our body expects glucose, right? All the machinery of our body functions with glucose, not fructose, not galactose for that matter. Glucose. So when we flood our body with fructose, our liver turns it into fat. And that process drains our liver's energy reserves. Now, this also dumps uric acid into our bloodstream. And if you've heard of that term before, you might understand that it's like notoriously associated with gout. Yeah. So while I thought I was helping myself to keep my calories low and avoid excessive hunger, I was inadvertently adding to my hunger and increasing my gout problem because, yes, I had a gout problem. What are we supposed to do if calories aren't the answer? If the calories have nothing to do with fat storage or release, hunger or fullness, how do we lose weight? It's the hormones. The same hormones Dr. Fung was screaming about.
Our body runs on hormones. Those are instructions as to what to do.
Hormones are the instructions of the body, and they react to the macronutrients that we eat. When we eat carbohydrates, we have a spike of insulin. Not just a rise, a spike. Spike meaning it's gigantic. It's more than it should be. This makes total sense since we've learned in this video that our body actually makes all the glucose that we need. It wasn't expecting us to eat any. When we get hungry, our body is asking us for protein and fat, but we keep coming back with carbohydrates. That causes a huge reaction to manage those incoming carbs that it didn't ask for. And a few hours later, when everything has been cleaned up, we get another hunger cue because it still needs that protein and fat it originally asked us for. And what do we give it, Wellness Warrior? We likely come back with more carby snacks because, right? We keep bringing it back carbs. I know because I did this. I did it for years. I didn't understand. So I'm guessing really right now that you don't understand it either. I want you to get this faster than I got it. Because once I understood it, everything changed. But here's something else that doesn't get spoken about much. Protein only produces a nice, moderate insulin response. Fat barely gets an insulin reaction from our body at all. Like honestly, since it rarely happens in nature that you're going to eat animal fat without the associated protein, right? It makes sense to me. I understand why our body wouldn't need to have a moderate response to fat too. They come in together typically. So given that insulin is called the fat storage hormone and carbs spike insulin, we can safely say that a huge driver of weight gain is eating carbohydrates. And this plays out in our daily lives, Wellness Warrior. We know that we can be extremely full from a meal, but someone gives us a dessert and we just taste it. And all of a sudden, we have room to start eating again. We know that we can have a huge salad or some kind of vegetarian meal and be extremely hungry an hour later. And today, we learned why. Our body was asking us for protein, but we didn't give it sufficient protein to trigger the stopping signal, right? So as soon as our stretch receptors in our stomach stop signaling fullness, we are on the hunt for food again. This is the real reason that carbs are what you should be tracking, Wellness Warrior. We can feel the outcome of eating carbs. The more carbs we eat, the less control we feel over our eating. We feel it. The less carbs in our diet, the more protein and fat can signal satiety while building and fueling us cleanly. And building the body cleanly is another factor that is severely underappreciated. Our body has the mandate of keeping all of our organs healthy. When it asks for protein, but we bring it carbohydrates, we're actually interrupting the repair process that it would have gotten done had we just given it what it asked for. We don't feel good. Poorly functioning body parts means that we suffer from illnesses, wellness warrior, illnesses that we need not suffer from if we were feeding ourselves properly. We need to remember that a healthy body regulates its weight. Feed your body properly so it can actually give you good health and weight loss. Before I keep going, I want to say thank you to my supporters. You're the reason that I keep making videos like this one. If you want more of these deeper breakdowns and videos exposing the stupid lies that we're being trapped with, you can support the channel using the links in the description to become one of these guys. And if this is the first time you're hearing that we don't need carbs, go watch this video right here where I talk about why no one ever needs to eat fruit. Click on the link and I'm going to meet you on the road to health.